Think about something you've built in your life, a career, a relationship, an identity that you assumed would last forever, only to watch it shatter. For centuries, the citizens of Rome held that exact same assumption. They built an empire of absolute dominance, firmly believing their civilization was entirely indestructible, and proudly giving it the title of the Eternal City. But the analytical psychologist Carl Jung offered a different perspective on our relationship with time. Jung observed a stark truth about the human condition. Absolutely everything in our lives undergoes inevitable, constant change. He warned that the harder we cling to a static, outdated version of our identity, the more severe our eventual downfall will be when reality finally catches up. Looking at the history of Rome through this psychological lens gives us a clear window into this process. A massive human ego trying to outlast reality and eventually succumbing to the pressure. Jung divided our psychological development into two main phases. He argued that our primary goal in the first half of life is to conquer our environment, assert our power, and build a robust identity. We can see this exact phase play out on a geopolitical scale in early Roman history. Starting as a small settlement on the banks of the Tiber River, the civilization pushed outward to become an aggressive, global conquering force. When the Roman legions invaded Britain in the year 43 AD, they immediately established a strategic stronghold on the River Thames called Londinium. When the Celtic queen Boudica led a rebellion and burned that settlement to the ground, the Roman military simply returned, crushed the resistance, and rebuilt Londinium into a heavily fortified capital. This projection of dominance was a systemic pattern. Over in the Middle East, the Republic captured the holy city of Jerusalem and systematically absorbed it into their empire as the province of Judea. Any challenge to their authority met absolute, overwhelming force. During the Great Revolt in 70 CE, Roman legions laid a 5-month siege to Jerusalem, destroying the city and burning the Second Temple to the ground. To display their ultimate control, they rebuilt the holy site as a Roman colony, forbade Jewish people from entering the city, and erected a temple dedicated to Jupiter directly over the ruins of the old one. These historical actions illustrate the peak of the Jungian ego phase, a state where an entity believes it is in complete control, entirely untouchable and permanent. But Jung identified a serious problem with this kind of relentless expansion. Every powerful ego inherently casts a dark, unacknowledged shadow. His theory suggested that if we fail to integrate that shadow and refuse to adapt to a changing reality, the internal pressure will eventually force us to self-destruct. Rome's shadow was massive. It consisted of a staggering geopolitical overextension, extreme cultural hubris, and the immense human suffering required to maintain its outer borders. Instead of adapting, the empire fiercely resisted change. They carried the burden of trying to maintain an outdated identity as the permanent ruler of the known world. By the 5th century, the physical consequences of this rigidity became undeniable. The overextended empire began rapidly fracturing under its own weight. In the year 410, the final Roman legions officially withdrew from Britain, leaving the capital of Londinium completely abandoned to decay. This territorial retreat aligns with the Jungian observation that a catastrophic breakdown follows when an identity becomes too rigid to survive its changing environment. But Jung offers a lesson for what happens after the fall. There is a difference between a fatal collapse and a necessary transformation. The physical form of the Roman Empire fell and died. However, its core structural elements, its legal codes, its architecture, and its language survived to become the foundation of the modern Western world. Their eastern territories survived the collapse by adapting, effectively evolving into the Byzantine Empire, to serve as a spiritual and cultural successor for centuries. This historical evolution mirrors what happens when a person navigates a profound midlife shift or a period of deep personal loss. The psychological necessity is the same. The old self must be allowed to die so that a new reality has the space to begin. The illusion of the eternal city was a trap. Only by finally falling did Rome allow the structures of the ancient world to dissolve, clearing the path for the medieval era to take shape from its remains. Take a hard look at your own life. What outdated Roman Empire are you fiercely defending right now? Let it fall so you can build something new in place.